They called him a heretic, a threat, dangerous, but all he did was speak the truth. This is the forgotten story of Roger Williams, a Puritan minister who dared to challenge the religious and political order of early New England, and paid the price. He was exiled, abandoned in the snowy wilderness, and nearly erased from the pages of American history. But the ideas he stood for? They would shape the foundation of the United States. Let's go back to the 1600s. The Puritans had just crossed the Atlantic, fleeing religious persecution in England. They wanted to build a society where they could worship freely, a city upon a hill in the New World. But there was a catch. They wanted freedom of religion for themselves, not for everyone else. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, if you disagreed with the religious leaders, you weren't just wrong, you were dangerous. You could be punished, silenced, even banished. Into this world arrived Roger Williams in 1631, a brilliant scholar trained at Cambridge, deeply devout, exactly the kind of man the colony thought it needed. At first, they welcomed him, offered him a post in Boston. He refused. Why? Because he believed the church in Boston was still too loyal to the Church of England, and he believed no government, not even a godly one, had the right to tell people how to worship. That alone made him controversial. But it didn't stop there. Williams had a radical view on land. He believed that the English settlers were living on stolen ground, that the land belonged to the native peoples who had lived there for generations, and that the Royal Charter, the document granting colonists that land, was wicked, a lie in the eyes of God. Imagine that. A minister standing up in Puritan New England, calling out their religious leaders and accusing them of theft, all while preaching that civil government had no right to interfere with religion. In the Puritan worldview, he wasn't just stirring the pot. He was setting it on fire. His sermons drew attention, not just from ordinary people, but from powerful leaders. They called him a windmill of strange opinions. They feared his ideas would infect others, turn people against their faith and their authority. In 1635, the General Court of Massachusetts had enough. They charged Roger Williams with spreading new and dangerous opinions. He was ordered to appear in court, told to recant, to conform. He refused. Instead, he doubled down, saying that forced worship dishonors God, and only a free conscience can find true faith. For that, he was sentenced to banishment. But the court didn't wait. They ordered his immediate arrest. In the dead of winter, warned by friends, Williams fled into the snow before the authorities could capture him. He spent 14 weeks in the wilderness, with no shelter, no food, surviving only by the grace of the Native Americans he had always respected. This part of the story is often skipped in school books, because Roger Williams had long built relationships with the Narragansett tribe. He learned their language, traded fairly, treated them as equals. Now, they saved his life. With their help, he traveled south and founded a new settlement, Providence. It wasn't just a town, it was a radical experiment. Providence would be a place where government had no power over the soul, where no one would be punished for their beliefs, where native peoples were respected, not removed. It became the first colony in America with true religious freedom. Catholics, Jews, Quakers, even atheists, all were welcome. Roger Williams didn't stop there. He wrote powerful books defending his views. One of them, The Bloody Tenant of Persecution, would become one of the most important arguments for the separation of church and state. He believed government corrupts religion, and vice versa. That faith must be voluntary, or it isn't faith at all. No one, not a magistrate, not a minister, has the right to control another person's conscience. Sound familiar? Those ideas would echo more than a century later, in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. But in the 1600s, they were seen as treason. Even some of his fellow settlers in Providence thought he went too far. But he didn't stop. He kept preaching, kept writing, kept fighting, not just for his own freedom, but for everyone's. He even challenged the way colonists thought about Native Americans. While most saw them as savages, Williams saw wisdom. He wrote a full dictionary of the Narragansett language, one of the first in the New World. He praised their customs, their governance, their hospitality. To him, native peoples were fellow humans, children of God, with their own moral codes and dignity. Let that sink in. A 17th-century Puritan minister, defending native sovereignty, advocating full religious freedom, calling for a total separation of church and state. No wonder they tried to erase him. Today, Roger Williams is a name on a statue, maybe a university, but most people have never heard what he actually believed. And that's not an accident, because the truth he spoke back then still makes people uncomfortable now. We still argue about religion and politics, still debate land and power, still punish truth-tellers who refuse to stay silent. Maybe that's why we need his story now, not just to honor him, but to remember what courage looks like. A man who walked into the snow with nothing but his conscience and walked out, having changed the course of American history. Forced worship, he wrote, stinks in God's nostrils. That got him exiled. But today, it lives on in our Constitution. This is Unearthing Forgotten Voices. Subscribe for more realistic history stories they didn't teach you in school.